Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Abyss, and this video is going to be a long spree of rambling, kind of similar to Bodhi's video where he just broke down a bunch of points, talked about PvP, and I kind of want to do the same, but only with the Wilderness 2 map. So as you guys can see in one of my previous videos, I talked about Wilderness 2, what my opinions of the Wilderness were, and I said that I was going to break everything down in this video. So first things first, I just want to let you guys know, if you're new to my channel, essentially, I do a lot of deep wilderness PKing, and I've been PKing on RuneScape for nearly 20 years. I started when I was a little kid, 8 or 9 years old, and since then I've fallen in love with the game, and I've just played and PK'd, and that's pretty much all I've done on the game since like 2004, 2005. I've seen every single different rendition of PvP update come into the game. I remember the day that Teleblock came out. I remember the day that Ancient Magics came out. I remember when Mage Bank had just a ladder, there was no lever. I remember just like all of these things. I remember when Bounty Hunter came out. I remember when PvP Worlds came out. I remember when Free Trade got removed. Like, I'm sure a lot of us did, but as somebody that was PKing in all of those different eras and was very, very, very in tune with not only the PK scene, but also the clan scene, and now I'm a content creator and I don't really do any of that clanning stuff anymore, I think that I have a very, very, very broad perspective of all angles. And when I tried my best to create this Wilderness 2 map, I really wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to be biased for content creators. I think that a lot of the updates Jagex are bringing out are going to be very friendly to content creators, and I think that overall there needs to be more variety. I don't think it's fair to just have a really biased update come out and that just be really catered to content creators. So anyways, let me give you guys a bit of background on this map that you guys see here. Essentially, Wilderness 2, it goes beyond the Bridge of Faith. The Bridge of Faith is a wilderness bridge that goes from the deserted keep into higher level wilderness. This here isn't necessarily something that's super necessary. It doesn't need to be like 70 wilderness. I'm not really attached to any of these updates in particular. This was just the idea that I came up with a couple other people, and even had a couple JMods in on the project as well back in 2019. But yeah, guys, cross the Bridge of Faith and boom, you're in Wilderness 2. The reason that Wilderness 2 is important, and you can't just add things to Wilderness 1, is because over the course of the last 20 years, the Wilderness map hasn't changed. It hasn't gotten better. There's been very minor updates to it, and overall, just like anything else, players are going to get bored if there's not enough variety. For example, Chambers 1 came out, which was Raids 1, and then obviously Theater of Blood came out a couple of years later. People get bored. Imagine if PVM was one of those things where the only bosses were Calfight Queen, KBD, Chaos Elemental, and like Dagnoth Kings, and there was no other updates for valid PvP or valid PVM opportunities in the last like 15 years. People would get sick of it and they would no longer find interest in that activity, and that is precisely why the wilderness is in the state that it is. So before we jump right into it, I kind of want to talk about why the map even needed to be made at all. First off, I remember I was on Twitter and I seen Mod Aiza getting into an argument with a really salty PvP player. I don't even remember who it was. It really doesn't matter. The point is that essentially he was saying that when it comes to PVM, a lot of PVM players decide to go and make these big, huge posts on Reddit, and they have a ton of ideas, and they make those ideas into a reality, and then that there is the blueprint that Jagex follows. He said that when the PvP community has an idea, for the most part, a lot of them just complain and they whine and they don't ever come up with any solutions. They just complain about problems. So that's when I decided to take this to the fullest extent. Like I said, I built a team with Skate, and me and him decided to try and make this thing a reality. We invited in a lot of people that we deemed to be credible PvP sources, and we looked for other people to be added to the team. At some point, Jagex and some other people got invited to the Discord server, and things were moving in a pretty positive direction. I would say that each day or even each week, we were meeting with Mod Gambit, and he was giving the project a lot of attention. I do believe at one point Jagex really did like this idea. Maybe not every single part of it, but I think that overall they agreed, and they think that, or they at least thought that, this here had potential to be the future of the wilderness, or even the future of PvP in general. So now that that's out of the way, I'm going to try and break down each one of these sectors of Wilderness 2, and then obviously you guys can make comments on what you guys like or don't like. I don't actually think any of these are going to come out. However, I do believe that if the wilderness were to have this way of revamping, there's just so much potential for PvP to grow again. There's so much potential for the wilderness to grow. There's so much potential for the clan scene to be revived because it's in a really bad state right now. And of course, I do think that the game in general would just be like just huge again. Like, I think that so many people would stream this stuff, so many people would make videos, and it would just be a very, very, very good update overall for the entire player base. But I don't want to waste too much time talking about the what ifs. I'm going to get into each one of these before I ramble for too long. And remember, I'm not super attached to any of these. This was actually just a big rough draft, and truth be told, when COVID hit at the early part of 2020, we all kind of just really went MIA on the project, and it kind of just dwindled into nothingness. I don't really think that anybody is to blame for any part of this project not working, but I'm here to say that this was a reality at one point, and maybe in the future there can be an opportunity for revival. So we're going to jump right into it, and let's start off with the Revenant Graveyard. Okay, so here we've got the Revenant Graveyard. Originally, this was supposed to be single combat revs. I think that Jagex really liked the idea, and that's what ended up happening to the current Revenant caves. When this idea was brought to the table, there was really no intention of ruining the multi-revs. Tons of clans, small groups of friends, and little PK teams enjoyed multi-revs, and it's sad to see that that was completely taken away. This was meant to be a solution to people who wanted to PK solo at revs, not a substitution, but in the end, multi-revs got removed anyway. The only difference between these revs and the current revs in OSRS is that the Wilderness 2 revs had a better drop table. They were meant to be more similar to the rev drop table previous to the nerf, and these would also drop a potential Revenant key. The Revenant key would allow you access to the dungeon that you guys can see on the left side of the map. Down that dungeon, you would find the Revenant boss after going through a trail of multi-way combat. The Revenant boss would be a PK hotspot because in order to get there, you would need a key. The key would only work one time and would be self-destroyed once you enter the dungeon, and players would obviously lose it upon entering. But the boss itself would be difficult to kill. Obviously, revs heal. This one here would definitely heal quite often and would have a quite decent drop table. We never really finished working on the drop table, but the Revenant boss did have some special perks, and we had the intention of seeing PvP weapons and armor from the past like Vesta, Statius, Morgans, and Zuriels all be potential drops. These items would only work inside Wilderness 2, and they were not tradable. This would mean that if a PKer wanted to use any of those weapons, they would need to go and actually interact with the boss in order to obtain them, and would not be able to just buy them in the GE. Another potential drop from the Revenant boss would be a Wilderness key, but I'll get more into that later. This is the second area of Wilderness 2. It's called the Master's Course. The Master's Course is meant to be the most difficult course in OSRS. Essentially, it's a version 2 of the Wilderness's agility course, and instead it would have a lot of low success rate traps, agility obstacles, skilling requirements, and a bunch of other things throughout. Once a player completed the course, they would get a Wilderness point. That will be explained a little bit later. And once again, they will get a good bit of EXP in each skill used throughout the course upon completion. The course itself was meant to take a while, and overall would end up being a very good XP rate for each skill. Upon entering the Master's Course, you had the ability to purchase a Master's Cloak that is sold at the entrance. This would provide a significant chance to succeed throughout the course more quickly, and would even give a better reward, at a risk of course, being PK'd. Essentially, just another version of risk over reward. If you buy the cape, you have a more successful and rewarding time doing the course, but if you choose not to, your rewards will be cut significantly. This was never worked out entirely between the people working on the project. A lot of us really aren't that great at skilling. I know the high-level community is really adamant on not touching XP rates, and overall, I would be completely fine with substituting this for another addition to Wilderness 2. However, at the time, this was a rough draft, and this was what we were working on. I think it would be a cool addition to the game. It would allow skillers or high-level players to be involved more with the Wilderness for a decent reward if they chose so. Moving on to the east side of the Wilderness 2 map, we have got the Mineshaft. The Mineshaft is going to be an introduction point to the new Wilderness 2 resources. At the Mineshaft, there are several new spots to mine for a new ore called Ethereum ore, which can be made into Ethereum jewelry. One of the ideas we had for this was the creation of the Ring of Ethereum, which would be a Wilderness 2 exclusive ring for bonus Wilderness points and utilities. We also wanted to add new logs, fish, and even a new breed of Chinchampas potentially on the Chinchampa Hill to the left. Furthermore, we had an idea to maybe make an area for smelting Ethereum ores and Ethereum bars, and even a Mineshaft dungeon entrance. Down here, there would be several hotspots to mine for Ethereum, and of course, gather other resources. Naturally, this would become a PK hotspot, and of course, a good moneymaker for those who just want to come down here and grind. This leads us to the middle of the Wilderness 2 map, and that is at the Sacred Temple. The Sacred Temple is actually quite similar to what is now known as the Feryx Enclave. It is essentially just a wilderness hub with a bank, teleport spot, and is ultimately supposed to be a safe zone. The Sacred Temple is just another wilderness hub. It cannot be accessed while being teleblocked, and is just going to be the focal point of survivability in Wilderness 2. The main difference here is that the Sacred Temple actually does have one massive purpose in the middle of its structure. If you take notice, there is a dungeon icon that was potentially going to be another project that we wanted to see come to life, which was known as God Wars 2. The lore behind this was essentially that Guthix was trying to bring balance to the wilderness since its entirety is Zamorakian domain. He would call upon Zeros and Saren, and these guys would help him in his conquest, thus giving us 3 more God Wars bosses. We never really fully worked out the mechanics for this or what the drop tables would be, but we did have a prototype for the creation of the weapons that they would drop and that would come into the game. All of this was very super early into development, and it was just mostly a thought that never really progressed past that point. Obviously, we thought the idea was really cool and had a lot of potential, so I just decided to throw it in the video since it's kind of a part of the map. At the upper region of the Wilderness 2 map, we have found ourselves at the Dragon's Lair. The Dragon's Lair was meant to be another wilderness boss and was supposed to be a variant of the Queen Black Dragon. The Queen Black Dragon was supposed to have a pretty hefty entrance fee. We wanted this to be a gold sink of sorts, and in return it would have a drop table with a very special unique. We wanted this to be the creation of the modern day Karasi sword style weapon that used dragon breath from the Queen as a magic based special attack. This is now overshadowed by the fact that the Volatile Nightmare staff has come out, obviously taking that spot, but the way this dragon boss worked was once you got the sword, you would need to charge it by killing dragons. Each dragon that you slayed would load a special attack charge worth of breath into the sword. The more charges, the stronger it would be, and it obviously capped out at 50, much like the Dragonfire shield. With each Queen Black Dragon kill, you would get awarded with a wilderness point as long as you were skulled and used the Dragon Karasi sword. This would encourage the risk over reward mentality while PVMing and give you a very good chance at benefiting with wilderness points, which I will now finally explain. On the far east side of the Wilderness 2 map lies a bridge that leads to the Hidden Vault. Now the Hidden Vault is my favorite part of Wilderness 2 and in my opinion ties the entire project together. The way this Wilderness Vault works is actually quite simple. Every time a player completes a task, gets a kill on a unique player risking a certain amount, acquires a boss kill, or just participates in any Wilderness 2 activity, they have a chance of receiving a Wilderness point. A Wilderness point will be then spent on gambles which range from low to master tier rewards. An example of a low tier reward would be something like PKing supplies, shop sold multi-gear, wilderness keys, or boss entrance tokens for the Revenant Dungeon or the Queen Black Dragon. An example of a high tier reward would be a PvP weapon, PvP armor, a potential wilderness pet, or a wilderness crown. The ideology behind the wilderness crowns was basically the re-implementation of party hats. The chance of getting one of these crowns should be disgustingly low and should inspire the same type of infamy that a party hat holder would get for having one in 2006 or 2007. Essentially, we wanted to create a super rare that was cosmetic, really cool looking, and really valuable. This would give no benefits, bonuses, or perks, and would be obtainable by any player in Wilderness 2 participating in any Wilderness 2 activity, whether it's skilling, PVMing, PKing, or even just idling in the wilderness while risking gear or wealth. This here does contribute to wilderness activity overall. Another feature the Hidden Vault would have is a max cape recolor potential for completionist players. We wanted to inspire a massive gold sink to the wilderness, so we thought of an idea so that players could offer up huge sums of money to recolor their max capes, or it could even be given as a chance from a roll on the Master Vault. With an update like this, PvP potential is endless, and there are a ton of different ideas that could be implemented or inspired later with this system in place. So yeah guys, that's basically it. The Wilderness 2 project in a nutshell. This was being worked on heavily in 2019. Like I said, it's not complete. There's so many loopholes, there's so many gaps, there's so many things that need to be reiterated, that need to be relooked at, and honestly, I don't think that any of these updates will ever come to the game. However, if you do believe in this and you do believe in the potential of an update like this actually working, and you guys can actually understand and hear and see what I'm trying to preach, then maybe, just maybe, if this gets enough attention, Jagex will one day listen. Now, once again, guys, all of these things were all just random ideas. None of this stuff is set in stone. There's definitely going to be people that love this and that agree, and there's going to be tons of people that probably think that a lot of these ideas are stupid, should never work, or have no place in the game. Try and just look at this with an open mind. If you disagree or you don't like one of the updates or one of the ideas, just remember that there's another person out there that does, and vice versa. Obviously, an update like this is massive. This would be the biggest wilderness overhaul in the history of RuneScape, and the reason that this was inspired originally was simply because the wilderness map has not been updated in nearly 20 years. That is an extremely long time to let veteran players have absolutely no updates to the landscape in which we are killing each other on. So with that said, guys, please take this with an open mind. I'm going to be reading all the comments and addressing any piece of criticism. Let's try and have a real discussion. Let's try and not be down each other's throat. If you guys like the update, let me know. If you dislike it or disagree, please don't just go down my throat with why it's stupid or why you hate it, and try and provide me with a real solution, and maybe we can actually have some dialogue and actually see each other's point of view. At the end of the day, this was just an idea that I came up with a long time ago. I had some help from my man Skate and a bunch of other people, and of course, Jagex itself was looking into this project way back in the day, and so there's definitely something here, but I'm very open to dialogue, I'm very open to theory crafting, and I really hope that you guys enjoyed. I'm really sorry that I'm not good at coming through with these commentary videos. I tried my best to kind of just give you guys a quick run through. I'm not the best editor, I really just make PK videos, you guys know. I'm no Swampletics, I'm no KempQ, I just really uploaded this right off the top of my head, and I hope that it came through clear to you guys and that you understood it all. Anyways, that's pretty much it. I don't want to ramble for too much longer. Hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to leave a like, hit that sub button. We're almost at 50K, and we'll be back with some PKing content soon.